Okay, hello everyone, and today we're going to be talking about auto segment split. This is a new tool that is available by Gedmatch. So what is it and why would you want to know? Well, this is a tool that allows you to divide your matches up into both paternal and maternal. And it's using the information of where people match you in order to allow you to do this. So really how it's working is if you know how you're related to a particular match, well, then you can see all the people that match on that same side of the chromosome. So it's the same people who are related to the same ancestors, and you can then annotate them as either paternal or maternal. And then anyone else who matches you at that same position who doesn't match the first group must be on the other side of the chromosome. So I'm going to be showing you an example of how this works. But what we're going to be really talking about today is how you would generate this file and how you can use this tool. Now, it is particularly useful whenever you don't know who one of these parents are, or maybe you don't know who either of the parents are. So this is a particularly good tool for adoptees, because they're going to be able to get a split between their parental sides, even if they haven't yet established which side is representing which person. At the moment, this tool is available on Gedmatch. It's based on an existing tool on genetic affairs that can be used with family tree DNA data. But because this is on Gedmatch, today we're going to be looking at the actual data on Gedmatch. Now, in order to use this auto segment split, it is a tier 1 tool, and that means you have to be a subscriber to Gedmatch to generate the file. Now, you can either subscribe to Gedmatch for $10 a month, or they do have a rate where you can pay $100 a year. And this tool was created by E.J. Blum of Genetic Affairs, and that's why then you can do similar things on his own website, Genetic Affairs. And again, that's something that you may want to look at if you like this tool, as we demonstrate today. So this is how you would start to generate your file. You basically go into Gedmatch, you go into the tier 1 tools, and you select auto segment split. And it's a very simple form. It asks you to put in your kit number. Don't change any of these other settings until you get familiar with them, would be my advice. What you can do is you can maybe change the number of kits to consider. It is at the moment the default is 250. You may want to change that up to 500. But apart from that, I wouldn't really recommend that you change any of the other defaults. And once you've done that, you just click submit. And then you wait for your file to be generated. And this is what happens. So you will eventually get this screen appearing. It'll take a minute or two for it to work through. And this is a file that I've generated for my uncle, Ivor McDowell, who is now deceased, and I have permission to show you his kit number. So you will get this screen here. And what you've got here is you've got a little instructions button. If you aren't sure how to generate the file, you can just click on this little instructions button and you get a little video coming up. Now, I'm going to be taking you through how that works today, but if you want to see this again, you can actually just watch that little video there. So it is included in the auto segment split section, so as you can see how to work with this file. But really what you're doing is you're staying on this download results tab, and then you're clicking on download results. And this produces a zip file for you. And this is what it looks like. So you have to go to your downloads. Now, everyone's downloads may look slightly different depending on your computer, but this is the way mine produces it. And you see a file in your downloads called Auto Segment Opposite Sides. So you open the folder, and when you open the folder, you see 3 folders and 1 HTML file. And then what you do is you press the button Extract All. That's very important, because if you don't press Extract All, you will not be able to open these documents. So you have to click on extract all, and then what you're going to do is click on this HTML file, on the HTML file at the bottom there. That's the one that's called Autosegment opposite sides and has the kit number beside it. When you do that, it brings you into a screen that gives you a little analysis of what it has found. And it tells me here that this table shows how 559 DNA segments, which are linked to 438 matches, are linked to 82 overlapping segment clusters. And it says that these overlapping segment clusters are further partitioned into 200 segment clusters, and these are then available below. So you get a multicolored sheet below, and it tells you about these particular clusters. Now, when you download this file, it is done by cluster number. It's not done by chromosome number. So if you were going to use this particular file, I would probably reorganize it by chromosome. So as you get all your chromosome 1s together, all your chromosome 2 matches together, it just makes it easier to work with that file. And then you're seeing the start and end positions, but these colored sections are telling you that this is a little cluster here, and that these two people are matching on the same side of the chromosome, and they're forming their own little cluster, and this is called cluster 1. And then cluster 2 is a lot bigger, and you can see again that this, I've just cut off the actual screenshot, but there's more that go right down here, and it's a red one, and it is again on chromosome 1, and it's giving me the start and end positions. And then you see the match name and their email and their kit number. So all of that information is available to you. So I would say if you're starting with this tool, my preferred way of working with this data is not to look at it in that format, although you can do so. You can also download it into your spreadsheet, but this is the option here that I think is most useful. And you have to have a subscription on DNA Painter in order to make this work. That's the one I'm going to show you today. So what you could do, as I said, is reorganize those matches by chromosome. You can then open up that spreadsheet if you want, but definitely I would suggest clicking on this little blue link here, which is Cluster Auto Painter. And if you do this, it makes it so much easier to work with the data that has been generated. And when you click on that, this is what you get. You get this little screen coming up here, and it explains to you that this is an automatic tool, and it just asks you to do something very basic. You have to put in if the tester is male or female, and then you have to attach the file. So when you click on Browse, it will then take you into your downloads, and then you just select that file that you extracted. So it's the same file. You're just attaching that to DNA Painter. And this is what you have to do in order to import that data into DNA Painter. And this is what is produced. It then says that it's all done and the segments were extracted from that cluster file. And it then allows you to generate a chromosome map. So you basically just click on this. This is a repetition of what I was told on Gedmatch, that there's 559 segments and they're in 200 clusters. So I click on Generate Chromosome Map, and that's when the magic happens. It then produces this for me. It's going to be called Opposite Sides Clusters. I can just click on that and give it the name of the person, or I can call it Auto Segment Split for the person, or I can call it whatever I want to call it. But this has now generated lots and lots of data, which is it has put into this chromosome map for me. And what you see down here is all of your different chromosomes. And these little light lines in the background, the blue and the pink, they are basically showing you your paternal side and your maternal side. Now, because you have just uploaded all of these clusters, they are being overlaid over both of the lines because there has been no decision yet by you as to which side of the chromosome any of these matches are on. So that's the bit that you have to do. You then have to look at these matches to see if you can work with them. They're all automatically given colors, and you've got a little key to all of your 200 clusters down the side. So you can click on a particular cluster, or what I tend to do is just open up these individual chromosomes, and then you can see all of the different clusters that are contained within that particular chromosome number. And this is what you get. So I've taken off the names of the matches here for privacy, but you would generally see them. So what you're able to do is you're able to look at these little clusters, and these are examples of the clusters that I was able to find. And then what I was able to do was to go in and identify them as either paternal or maternal. And I was doing that by looking at the names of the matches and looking at which matches I had already proven a connection to. Now, if you haven't proved a connection to anyone, you can still see both sides of the chromosome. And there's an example of that here. So I do know that this group is paternal, as is this group, and that means that this group then has to be maternal. But you can see here that this group is vertically above this group down here. So therefore, if these people were also paternal, they would be part of that group. But because the Autosegment split tool has put them in separate colors, that is telling me that it's a separate group, and it's on the other side of the chromosome. And this group is overlapping with this other group here, which is also identified as paternal. And that's why I am able to be very sure that this group is in fact maternal. So I know the names now of these two matches, and I can go back to my match list and I can try to work out how I'm related to those people, because now I have additional information that I didn't have before. I know these matches are maternal to me. So I'd be looking for trees. I'd be looking to contact the matches. I'd be looking for places that may coincide with my maternal side. So this is where you're starting to build up that information on matches that you don't know, purely based on matches that you do know. Now, if people are familiar with using Ancestry, you will know that you get a designation of parent 1 and parent 2 that can be classified as paternal or maternal. Now, that is based on a different type of data source. It's based on comparing all of your matches and in common with lists. It's not based on an analysis of the actual segments of DNA shared. So this is working in a similar way to the family matching tool on family tree DNA. It is analyzing your segments and making a judgment on your segments based on the classification in the two different groups that are above each other at the same location in your DNA. And this is the most accurate way of getting this information. If you find some of your Ancestry matches in this, if you find that they have also uploaded into Gedmatch, you might find that some of those paternal and maternal allocations on Ancestry are actually incorrect. But this cannot be incorrect if you use the tool correctly, because you're seeing both sides of the chromosome, and that's allowing you to see the side that you know, and then make an inference on which side the other match has to be on. So you can then go into Edit Group, and you can assign these groups of matches as paternal or maternal. And I'll show you that on the next slide. So what you would do is, once you know a group is on a side, this is how they appear at the beginning. They appear under shared or both, because as I showed you in the previous slide, they are going over both lines, both the light blue and the light pink. And when you click on the cluster, so if you identify this cluster, and in this case, I have identified this cluster as paternal. So I click on that particular cluster there. And when I do, then I get this here, and it'll say cluster 10, and I can then select the side of the chromosome that that particular group of matches is on, and I've identified them as paternal. You can even change the color at that stage if you want to do so, and then you would save that. So I now know that this group here is paternal. By the very nature of how this works, it then tells me this group here must also be maternal, because it cannot be paternal, or this group would all be the same people. So this group is now maternal. Now this group overlaps with this group. So therefore, what is that telling me? That is telling me that this group has to be paternal, because these two people have a match with me at the same position. I know this one now has to be maternal, so that's telling me this group is paternal. And then, because this one is paternal, this one then has to be maternal, because at this point, this person here is not matching this person here. So you can work through your segments, and just by knowing one group, I was able to identify these other three groups very quickly by a simple analysis of the DNA clusters there. So I hope that's been useful to you today. And for those of you who are attending and watching this live, then we'll now go to question and answers. Okay, thanks for listening.